Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to discuss the latest round of corporate mismanagement in gaming, featuring Microsoft and Sony, whose latest competition isn't over dominating the video game industry, but seeing which brand can completely obliterate the goodwill of their fanbase first. By now, most of you will be well aware of the Helldivers 2 account linking debacle, but for anyone who somehow missed it, I'll sum things up real quick. When Helldivers 2 first launched, PC players were informed that an intended requirement of linking a PSN account to access the game would be waived due to technical considerations, at least temporarily. However, months after launch, and after Helldivers 2 became the most successful live service entry in years, Sony decided to move forward with mandating the PSN linking requirement, while simultaneously delisting the game in almost 200 countries where creating a PSN account is virtually impossible. After 3 days of being slammed by negative reviews, roasted across social media, and staff at developer Arrowhead advocating for players to make their discontent known, Sony walked back the linking requirement permanently. You might be thinking, well, that sounds like a happy ending after all. And in some ways, it is. But it's also impossible to ignore the damage that's already been done, including a black mark on Sony's record with PC players that will last well into the future. Beyond negative publicity, both for Sony and Arrowhead Games, the entire situation is completely and utterly baffling from a business perspective. Cultivating a successful live service game in 2024, especially a co-op PvE-focused title, is next to impossible. But Arrowhead managed to do just that. Not only did they create an incredibly fun video game, they managed to do so without gross over-monetization, delivering a solid product that doesn't milk players for every cent to their name. Arrowhead pulled off a live service miracle that entire AAA studios have died chasing, just for their publisher Sony to almost throw it all away. And they were the ones desperately thirsting over that new source of revenue in the first place. Not only has Sony failed to capitalize on their acquisition of Bungie, purchased to help kickstart a new portfolio of live service games, but when they finally struck gold with Helldivers 2, they almost torpedoed their cash cow for shits and giggles. Only a corporatized AAA publisher would destroy their own potential profits in almost 200 countries for the sake of boosting PSN account numbers. The running theory behind why Sony made such a boneheaded decision. Beyond cutting off whole countries' worth of players, they also managed to alienate their entire PC player base, a previously untapped demographic that Sony needs now more than ever to help offset struggles with producing big-budget, blockbuster console titles their first-party studios are known for. While the end result was probably the best thing everyone could have hoped for, with pissed-off players even reverting their bad reviews on Steam, Sony almost killed their live service golden goose, and PC gamers won't be quick to forget those transgressions. While that fiasco was bad enough, apparently Microsoft saw what Sony pulled with Helldivers 2 and thought, we can do better. And boy oh boy did they do just that. How could they possibly top Sony's mismanagement of Helldivers 2, you might be wondering? Well, it just so happens, shutting down 4 entire studios, including the one responsible for putting out your best first-party exclusive this console generation, takes the cake. It's hard to believe, but yes, Microsoft did announce the closure of 4 studios on May 7th, including Arcane Austin, responsible for last year's abysmal Redfall, and Tango Gameworks, the team behind surprise smash hit Hi-Fi Rush. When it comes to Arcane Austin, it sucks, but I get it. Redfall was a truly disastrous product that deserved every bit of roasting it got. What really sucks, though, is how the studio was forced by executives to make a product they didn't want to. The live service curse strikes again, and when it flopped, they were shuttered because of it. Dinga Bakaba, director at sister studio Arcane Lyon, did not hold back after the news about Arcane Austin broke, and promptly eviscerated Microsoft's handling of the situation on Twitter. That roasting is a big deal. Studio management publicly denouncing the actions of their publisher is a really bad look for Microsoft, and does not bode well at all for morale at other Xbox-owned studios. Then, we have the closure of Tango Gameworks, and when it comes to this, all I can really say is, what the actual f***? You have a studio that created arguably, and let's be honest, it is, the best first-party Xbox exclusive this generation, which you were more than happy to praise them for repeatedly. Then you can them halfway into 2024? How does that decision make any damn sense? Worse still, how are other Xbox studios supposed to feel now? When teams like Ninja Theory, Machine Games, Oxide, and Obsidian look at what happened to Tango after putting out Hi-Fi Rush, a small passion project that turned into a smash hit, the only thing they can possibly be thinking is that no one is safe anymore. Will putting out games like Hellblade 2 or Ara, even if they turn out to be commercial successes, which, in light of stalling Game Pass subscriptions, seems shakier than ever, be the death knell for those studios? Beyond its own developers, how in the world can we as players trust anything Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, Matt Booty, or anyone else from Xbox leadership says at this point? Microsoft's vision for gaming seems completely and totally shaken, with no one at the top having even the slightest idea of where they want to take Team Green next. Is Microsoft doomed to become the Elder Scrolls, Fallout, and Call of Duty factory, putting out established AAA titles and nothing else? Is this where all that time and effort to acquire Activision Blizzard has led us to? And, at this point, are we really supposed to believe they can be trusted with these iconic franchises? Just look at what's become of Halo and Gears of War, two of the biggest names in gaming that have been reduced to mere shadows of their former glory under Microsoft's management. Is that the fate Call of Duty, Elder Scrolls, and Fallout are doomed to repeat? I've been a firm supporter of Phil and his team over the years, despite all the recent and not so recent blunders. But when are we supposed to throw our hands up and say, enough is enough? For me, now seems just about as good a time as any. Just like every case of poor corporate management and their unfathomably stupid decisions, the ones who end up hurt the most in all of this are us, the players, but even more so, the hardworking developers behind these fantastic games that somehow aren't good enough for their greedy overlords. Arrowhead has shown so much passion for Helldivers 2 and its community, all while releasing and supporting an incredibly polished product, only for that goodwill and hard work to be squandered by Sony's fixation with pumping their numbers. Tango, who already sported a solid track record prior to Hi-Fi Rush, hands Xbox their best exclusive of this generation, and Microsoft thanks them by closing the studio and ending their incredibly unique and varied output of games. At the same time, Arcane Austin gets murked after being forced to develop a game they didn't even want to make. Totally unfair and completely f***ed in every sense of the word. And the question that keeps coming back to my mind is, why can't these companies get out of their own way? The answer, of course, hasn't changed since the last time we spoke about this topic. AAA gaming is a wasteland of corporate greed, and now the future seems bleaker than ever. These companies continue to make the most disgusting, harmful, short-sighted decisions that bite them in the ass each time, and somehow still show no signs of slowing down. Nintendo is content to sit back and do the same thing they've done for years, give players great hardware and great games to go along with it, but Microsoft and Sony both seem completely lost, touting new business strategies and plans for profitability, only to throw them back in their developers' faces when they change their minds on a whim, or need to satisfy the never-ending greed of their shareholders. Investment into Game Pass isn't working, and it's painfully clear that Microsoft has no freaking clue where it should pivot to next. Our first-party games suck? Okay, let's create Game Pass. Oh, wait, Game Pass is unsustainable now? Back to first-party games, but f*** any developer who doesn't create the next Call of Duty. Yeah, that sounds sustainable. Sony seems equally aimless, chasing the live service golden goose, finally snagging the biggest win we've seen in years, then managing to almost completely f*** it up in a matter of days. More brain-dead decision-making and laughably poor management for the sake of profit margins and boosting numbers. Without the new revenue streams from Helldivers 2 and other successful live service ventures, where does Sony stock stand in 3, 5, 10 years? How can they afford to publish the next God of War, Spider-Man, or Ghost of Tsushima if they ruin their other avenues by which they can support the talented developers who craft those experiences for us to enjoy? AAA gaming is a cesspool of corporatization, greed, and completely clueless companies, willing to f*** over hardworking developers for the mere chance of increasing metrics for their shareholders. Microsoft and Sony should be ashamed of their behavior, and it's great to see them being held so accountable, but the reality is that little to nothing will change, and the dumpster fire of mainstream gaming will continue to burn, as it has been for years, taking down thousands of good people along with it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more gaming content, and let me know your thoughts on Microsoft and Sony's disaster classes in the comments below. You're a real one and I appreciate you. Catch you later, homies.